Let me share something with you. Sometimes the most powerful decision you can make isn't action, it's stillness. It's choosing to step back and become quiet. Because real silence, sacred silence, isn't weakness. It's controlled strength. It's pain refined into wisdom and discipline clothed in patience. There comes a moment in your life when you stop chasing people, you stop trying to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You begin to invest in your peace, your personal growth, and the calling on your life. You realize that not every conflict is worth your energy. Not every insult needs your response, and not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next season. That's when everything begins to shift. Have you ever sat in a room overflowing with noise, arguments, opinions, confusion, and suddenly felt a quiet urge rise from deep within, telling you to just be still? That's not weakness. That's your spirit recognizing its strength. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them gossip. Because true, intentional silence is a kind of power that few understand. In a world that constantly pushes you to respond, to post, to react, to explain your side, silence becomes a rare, dangerous discipline. People might call you distant. They might accuse you of being cold. They'll say you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You've grown. You've learned that peace isn't found in winning debates. It's found in standing secure in who you are without needing to broadcast it. That's maturity. That's strength. That's real freedom. There's something deeply powerful about the one who refuses to react, the one who no longer has the urge to explain every move, justify every choice, or defend every decision. You begin to see that not everyone deserves access to your energy. Some people are just background noise in the greatest story of your life, and you're not obligated to respond to the noise. And holding your peace when someone tries to stir your anger, that's true power. Refusing to be pulled into drama, that's growth. Silence is not avoidance. It's intention. It's the conscious decision to choose peace over pride, purpose over ego. Don't ever let anyone mistake that for weakness. The person who can remain still while being judged, misunderstood, or doubted, that person has mastered self-control. And self-control is the anchor of every strong soul. Silence brings revelation. When you speak less, you begin to hear more, especially from God. People scream, but truth, real truth, whispers. It doesn't beg to be heard. It waits for the quiet to make room for it. That's why people who depend on constant noise struggle to find peace. Because peace lives in the stillness, in the quiet corners of your spirit. When you stop chasing and start listening, when you embrace the hush, you finally see what truly matters. You notice who is real. You discern what truly deserves your time. And above all, you discover the version of yourself that doesn't need applause or validation. That version, the one who doesn't need the spotlight, who doesn't wait for permission, that's the real you. And once you discover that version of yourself, you begin to build from confidence, not comparison. You no longer feel the urge to raise your voice to be acknowledged. You don't need to fight to be visible. Let your stillness speak louder than your words. Let your peace be your response, because those who are truly strong never need to announce it. They show it in how they walk, in how they breathe, in how they endure storms without complaining about the thunder. Weakness talks, strength acts quietly, steadily, and with undeniable force. And when the work is finished, the world takes notice, not because you broadcasted it, but because your life testified of it. That's what real strength looks like. That's the kind of legacy silence leaves behind. Not a performance, but a structure. There's a reason why they say still waters run deep. The deeper the soul, the less noise it makes. You won't find turbulence in a shallow puddle. But the calmness of the ocean, that's when it's holding its greatest power. Family, with difficulty, the kind that is rooted, unwavering, and anchored. People will test you just to see if they can trigger you. They'll poke at your boundaries just to see if you'll crack. But when you stay composed, when you hold tight to your peace with quiet strength, that's when you gain the deepest form of respect, not only from others, but from yourself. You begin to learn that not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation requires your involvement. Silence unsettles people because it forces them to face their own noise. When you stop arguing, when you don't rise to every insult, when you remain quiet in rooms where you once fought for recognition, it speaks volumes. It declares, I've outgrown this. And true growth, authentic, lasting growth, is quiet. You'll never hear a tree grow, but eventually its roots are so grounded and its trunk so firm, no storm can shake it. That's what silence cultivates. It anchors you. It deepens your roots. It strengthens your structure for battles you haven't even seen yet. And when those storms hit, you won't need to shout. You'll simply stand firm. And don't think for a second that your silence goes unnoticed. People feel it. They sense it. They talk about it. Some won't understand it. Others will feel threatened by it. But the wise, the deep, the discerning, they'll respect it. Because silence confronts noise. It holds a mirror to chaos. And when people see they can't pull you into their confusion, when your peace remains untouched, they realize something about you is different. You're building something lasting. You're establishing strength, discipline, and meaning. And those aren't things you can fake or purchase. They're earned in the still, quiet places. We've been conditioned to think that strength has to roar, that power must shout to be real. But silence is the language of the resilient. It belongs to those who have been shattered and yet found the strength to rise again. Not because they're empty of words, but because they realize that not every truth needs to be spoken aloud. They've discovered the wisdom in release, the peace in walking away without resentment, the strength in choosing quiet over ego. And in that choice, they've unearthed something rare, something unshakable. They've uncovered freedom, the kind that cannot be taken by slander, insult, or being misunderstood. Silence teaches endurance, and endurance is a weapon. In a world obsessed with speed, noise, and constant reaction, you become the one who waits, the one who watches, the one who listens, the one who moves, not at the pull of emotion, but at the whisper of wisdom. And when you move like that, your strength becomes undeniable, expressed not in volume, but in clarity. You stop reacting, you start responding. You stop being driven by emotion, you become guided by intention. And when you speak, every syllable carries significance. People begin to lean in, not because you demand their attention, but because your words are filled with depth and direction. That's the gift of silence. It makes your presence felt, even when no words are spoken. And that kind of presence That quiet certainty is true influence. So don't let the noise of the world deceive you into thinking that silence is weakness. It's not. Silence is power. It means you're rising. It means you're learning how to build quietly, how to guard what's sacred, how to lead without needing recognition. It means you've stopped trying to explain yourself to those who never truly listen. It means you've encountered something sacred. You've met the strongest version of yourself. The version that doesn't need an audience to make an impact. The one that shifts a room without ever raising its voice. Because your silence, it speaks louder than noise ever will. There comes a point in life when you stop choosing chaos and start choosing peace. Not because you've grown numb, but because you now care more deeply than ever. You care about your mental space, your emotional health, your spiritual alignment. You begin to understand that protecting your peace isn't optional anymore, it's essential. Because peace isn't just a feeling, it's your survival, it's your healing, it's the force that holds you together when life tries to pull you apart. And once you encounter real peace, you no longer go back to begging chaos to validate your worth. Peace doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means you've stopped giving your energy to what depletes you. It means you walk away from what insults your soul, even if it once felt like home. It means you release the ones who only appear to take, to drain, to disappoint. When peace becomes the priority, subtraction becomes sacred. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing closure. You stop answering calls that only stir confusion, because now your peace is sacred. And once you start treating it as something holy, everything begins to change, not just around you, but within you. You wake up with clarity. You begin to move with purpose. You stop looking for approval from those who never recognized your value, even when you stood right in front of them. You no longer try to fit into spaces you've already outgrown. And when peace becomes your standard, you become immovable. You start defining success by your calm, not by the chaos surrounding you. That's when you truly step into your strength. Not a strength that dominates others, but one that anchors you, steadies you, and keeps you centered through every storm. Not everyone will understand this evolved version of you. Some will say you've changed. Some will say you've grown distant. But what they'll never know is what it cost you to arrive at this peace. They didn't see the tears. They weren't there during the breaking points, the silent nights when you could barely hold it together. They didn't witness the inner battles or the healing that happened behind closed doors. So no, you're not cold, you're cautious. You protect your soul now because you've learned the hard way that not everyone deserves access to it. Some only loved you when you were shattered because brokenness was easier to manipulate. But not anymore. Not now. Now peace reigns at the core of your life, and peace demands boundaries. You will lose people as you begin to guard your peace, but let them leave. If your peace offends someone, they were never meant to stay. Because real love does not come wrapped in turmoil. True friends don't leave you feeling empty. And if someone is bothered because you put your well-being before their comfort, that's not your weight to carry. That's the clearest sign they never truly honored who you are. Your peace is not up for discussion. It's not a group decision. It's not open for negotiation. It's yours. And if someone is disrupting it, they've already revealed all you need to know. Protecting your peace means saying no without guilt. It means being misunderstood without explanation. It means walking away with a heavy heart and doing it anyway. There's no act of self-respect more powerful than defending your peace like your life depends on it, because it truly does. The stress, the burnout, the emotional fatigue you've normalized, that's not living. That's surviving in the absence of peace. And you are fully within your right to walk away from anything that steals your joy, drains your balance, or dims your hope. You weren't created to operate in survival mode. You were made for mornings filled with intention, not anxiety. Days led by focus, not chaos. Evenings closed with peace, not mental exhaustion. That's the kind of life peace creates. And it begins the moment you decide it's worth more than anything else. You don't need to hit rock bottom to start protecting your peace. You don't have to wait until your body gives out, until your heart goes numb, until your mind drowns in noise. Start now. Start before you collapse. Start before anxiety becomes your natural state. Because peace isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you intentionally build. You cultivate it through boundaries, through intentional choices, through sacred silence, and by walking away from what drains your soul. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. And once you begin to truly choose peace, you'll wonder how you ever survived without it. The people you once clung to, the ones you fought to hold on to, will no longer carry weight when your soul finally breathes again, because you were never designed to carry burdens that weren't yours. You were never tasked with fixing everyone else's pain at the expense of your own well-being. You were never meant to be the emotional landing zone for people who never once asked how you were. Let that truth settle deep. It isn't selfish to protect your energy. It's essential. Because when you're running on empty, there's nothing left to pour into others. When your spirit is unsettled, your purpose becomes muffled. When you're engulfed by someone else's chaos, you lose the rhythm of your own peace. Take it back, reclaim it. Let peace be the ground you stand on again. Start showing up for yourself the way you've faithfully shown up for others. Offer yourself the grace, the rest, the compassion you so easily extend to everyone else. You're not required to be available for everything. You owe no one an explanation for your distance. Sometimes protecting your peace looks like stepping back, embracing stillness, refueling quietly, and returning whole. Because the world isn't desperate for more overwhelmed souls. It needs people who are steady, rooted, and whole. And that begins with you. You can't control everything around you, but you can control what you let in. Peace is not accidental, it's intentional. It's a choice you must make every day. So each time you feel drawn back to what broke you, remind yourself that peace comes first. Each time someone invites you into their chaos, remember what truly matters. And every time guilt creeps in for choosing solitude, for holding a boundary, for creating distance, pause and breathe in truth. My peace is my priority, because without peace, success feels empty, love feels heavy, and life turns into survival. But with peace, everything begins to flourish. Your heart begins to mend. Your calling begins to take shape. That's the life you were always meant for. That's the new standard. Not confusion, not conflict, just peace. Deep, steady, sacred peace. And then one day you'll come to a powerful realization. Not everyone should have access to you. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life, your dreams, your vulnerabilities. For far too long, you handed the most sacred parts of yourself to people who only offered you pieces in return. You allowed too many to come close who never should have been allowed through the door. But now you know your presence is a treasure. Your energy is sacred. Your time is invaluable. And from this point on, you'll never again apologize for guarding them. People will say they know you, but all they've seen is the version you chose to reveal. They were guests in your journey, not the ones who wrote it. You are not obligated to give unlimited access to your emotions, your time, your healing, or your generosity. Some people only show up to drain you, distract you, or absorb your light because they never learned how to cultivate their own. But you are not a recovery center for those unwilling to grow. You are not a resting place for people who keep setting fire to your peace. And you're done minimizing yourself just to stay in rooms that never recognized your value. You no longer need to explain yourself to those who are determined to misinterpret you. You don't have to keep opening the door for people who only bring chaos when they enter. Some will mistake your compassion for weakness. Some will take your silence as consent. But what they don't understand is that you're not quiet because you lack something to say. You're quiet because they no longer deserve to hear it. Not everyone earns a seat at your table. Not everyone is meant to stand next to royalty. You're not being distant. You're not being harsh. You're being intentional. And there's power in that. You've learned through pain, through letdowns, that access to you is something sacred, something earned, not given freely. The people who truly care about you won't have to keep proving their place, but they'll never make you doubt it either. And those who keep harming you with their presence have no right to another opportunity to do it again. Release them. Not everyone is built to carry the full weight of who you are. And it's not your duty to shrink so they can feel more comfortable with their limited view. You are not an option. You are not a side role in someone else's chaos. You were never meant to fix problems that were never yours. The moment you begin guarding who has access to you is the moment you begin guarding your peace, your calling, and your future. That's when things become clear, and with that clarity you'll start noticing who's in your life because they truly value you and who's there only to benefit from you. That awareness, that's your breakthrough. That's when growth begins. Because boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about discerning who's real and who's not. They help you distinguish the authentic from the opportunistic, the loyal from the self-serving. Your vulnerability isn't owed to everyone. You don't need to share sacred parts of yourself with those who haven't earned your trust. Some only want proximity to collect your truth and twist it, to use your tenderness as leverage and redefine your strength on their terms. But this isn't about growing bitter. This is about becoming wiser, stronger, and more deeply rooted in your identity. You have every right to say, no, you no longer get that part of me. And when you say it, when you reclaim your power, you may need to sit with yourself and ask, why have I allowed people who've added nothing to my life to occupy so much space in it? That's when the truth becomes clear. It was never about how long they've known you. It's always been about how they've treated you. Loyalty isn't defined by time. It's defined by presence, by consistency, by who stands beside you when it counts. Some people have been in your life for years and still never truly showed up for you, and others, they entered unexpectedly and loved you purely, honored your boundaries without effort. And those are the ones who earn access. That's who holds the key to your heart. You've been too open for too long, too forgiving, too understanding. But now it's time to move differently. Your love is uncommon. Your presence brings healing, your spirit carries weight, and you cannot keep offering that to those who mishandle it, then wonder why you feel depleted. You are not required to answer every call, reply to every message, or attend every invitation. You're allowed to step away, to rest, to carve out space, not out of disregard, but out of necessity. Because once you taste the kind of peace that comes from protecting your access, you won't ever open the gate so freely again. Just watch how everything shifts when you stop trying to meet everyone's expectations. Notice how your energy returns when you stop pouring into those who can't carry what you give. You'll find clarity. You'll gain strength. Your purpose will sharpen, and the people who are meant to stay, those who truly care, will honor your boundaries without guilt or pressure. They won't manipulate your silence or resent your growth. They'll support you in the stillness and cheer for you even when you step back, because they see you, they value your presence, and most of all, they deserve to be part of your life. From this day forward, you owe no one unrestricted access to your soul just because they applauded you once. Some people belong in the balcony. They were never meant to enter the inner rooms of your heart. Don't hand out VIP passes to people who treat you like general seating. Be kind, be compassionate, but be discerning. Because not everyone is worthy of access to you, and that's not pride, that's self-respect. That's wisdom. That's power. And now that you know better, it's time to live better. Sometimes life clears the room just so you can finally see who really matters. The calls stop. The crowd fades. The noise quiets. And what remains is you sitting in the silence. That's where transformation begins. Not in the applause, not in the comfort, but in the stillness where nothing distracts you from the truth. When there's no clapping, no spotlight, no crowd, just you, your pain, your past, and the choices you make from that sacred place. That silence is not a sentence. It's preparation. That's where the deepest transformation begins. Because when you're surrounded by people, it's easy to perform. It's easy to hide, to blend in, to wear the mask and play the role. But when it's just you, the masks come off, the act stops. And the real you begins to surface, the version you've avoided, the one carrying the full truth. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, but it's absolutely necessary. Because authentic growth doesn't feel like growth when you're walking through it. It feels like heartache. It feels like disorientation. It feels like solitude. But underneath that tension, something sacred is forming. A seed is being nurtured. A new structure is being built. Inner strength is being forged. And that transformation is happening in the silence. You don't discover your resilience in noise and applause. You discover it in the hidden struggles, the ones no one ever witnesses. You find it when tears fall at 2 a.m., yet you still rise in the morning and face the day. You find it when the phone stays quiet, but you speak encouragement to your own soul. You find it when no one asks how you are, and still you keep going. That's what real transformation looks like. That's growth. That's the becoming process. Because just like the caterpillar, transformation doesn't take place under the spotlight. It unfolds alone in darkness, wrapped in quiet and stillness, and when it reemerges, it is unrecognizable. That's the purpose of isolation. It reshapes you privately so you can return in power. In that hidden space, you start to uncover pieces of yourself you never knew were there. You begin to recognize your triggers. You see which wounds never truly healed. You confront the boundaries you never enforced. You face the cycles, the habits, the decisions. And through that honest confrontation, clarity is born. You start to see who you were, who you are, and who you're being shaped to become. Some of the spaces you once called comfort were actually cages. Some of the people you labeled support were just distractions in disguise. Acknowledging that truth stings, but it also liberates. Because isolation isn't breaking you. It's breaking off what was never meant to stay. It's tearing down the false beliefs you used as survival tools. It's shaking away the things you leaned on for too long. It's exposing the neglected places of your life that quietly unraveled. And yes, it may feel like collapse, but what's really happening is this: the illusions are falling so that your truest self can finally stand. Isolation doesn't just reveal reality, it gives birth to transformation. Those quiet nights, those unseen tears, those moments you thought no one noticed, that was the cost of rising. And people might not understand your silence. They may ask where you've been, what changed, why you're no longer who you used to be, but you won't always have the language to explain it. Because what happened in that solitude wasn't meant for them. It was for you. It was holy. It was intimate. It was divine. While they were chasing the noise, you were being refined in quiet. While they searched for applause, you were laying a foundation. While they were shouting for attention, you were becoming steady. You did the unseen work, and now the outcome will speak louder than anything you could say. Growth will cost you relationships. It will cost you familiarity. It will ask you to sit with hard truths and wrestle with questions you'd rather bury. There will be moments when it feels like you're falling behind, like you're missing out. But you're not losing, you're rising. You're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't crave applause or rely on validation. You've found peace. You found alignment. You've discovered purpose. And those things aren't given. They are earned in silence. That's the gift of solitude. And once you've grown in that sacred stillness, you'll never return to the noise the same way again. You'll stop engaging in empty conversation. You'll stop accepting love that comes in fragments. You'll stop pursuing what doesn't nourish your spirit. You'll begin to move with precision, speak with intention, and think with clarity. Because once you've felt your own strength rise in the quiet, nothing and no one will pull you away from it again. You'll guard your peace like treasure. You'll be intentional with your time. You'll become careful with your energy. And that version of you, the centered, focused, resilient version, is the one that shifts everything. That's the one who walks in purpose and refuses to shrink back. So when life gets quiet again, don't fear it. Lean into it. Embrace the silence. Trust that something sacred is being shaped beneath the surface. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. You're not being ignored, you're being refined. Let go of the noise. Release the distractions. Let the quiet do its work. Because in the stillness, your truest strength is coming alive. And when you emerge from that season, you won't just make it through. You'll realize the silence wasn't your undoing, it was your awakening. You won't feel the need to explain where you've been. You won't chase after those who left or justify why you stepped away. Because real transformation doesn't need an announcement. The ones who are meant to understand will recognize it the moment you walk in. They'll sense the weight of your process. They'll feel the power of what you endured. So let them guess. Let them gossip. let them mourn the version of you that no longer exists. Because the one standing now doesn't beg, doesn't bend, doesn't break. This one builds. This one stands tall. This one walks with purpose and clarity. And now you're building with unwavering focus, not just the kind that blocks out the noise, but the kind that deeply remembers who you are. The kind that makes a conscious choice again and again not to be pulled in every direction. Because when your thoughts are scattered, your spirit gets tired. But when your focus is anchored, your soul finds rest. But when your focus is anchored in truth, you begin to move with intention. You speak with clarity. You carry a strength that cannot be shaken. Focus isn't about shutting out the world. It's about recognizing what truly matters. It's about sacred perspective. Seeing through the noise, past the fleeting moments, and beyond what others expect from you. And when you set your sights on your purpose, when you remain aligned with what you were uniquely created for, that's when the shift begins. That's when your spirit rises to meet your calling. Alignment doesn't arrive by luck. It's not some spontaneous event that shows up without warning. Alignment is the result of your values, your decisions, and your direction moving together in unity. And that only comes through focus. The world is noisy. Distractions are persistent. Temptations are relentless. But truth rarely shouts. Purpose doesn't scream. They speak in whispers. And without focus, you'll miss them. You'll miss the signs meant to guide you. You'll overlook the moments prepared just for you. You'll miss divine timing that only reveals itself to the grounded in the present. Focus is how you hear God in a world drowning in distractions. Focus is how you reconnect with your calling when everything around you tries to tear you away from it. And in that stillness, in that recognition, true alignment begins to unfold. But here's the truth. Focus will cost you. It will cost your comfort zone. It will cost the easy routes. It will cost relationships that once felt secure but no longer align with where you're going. You cannot carry everyone and still walk in the fullness of your purpose. You can't live scattered and expect divine clarity. Focus demands boundaries. It calls for silence. It requires unwavering discipline, because alignment isn't just about what you invite into your life. It's about what you're courageous enough to let go of. Toxic connections, unhealthy patterns, misplaced priorities, they all have to be released. And in that release, strength is formed. As your focus sharpens, so does your life. What once seemed uncertain starts falling into place. What was once blocked begins to open, not because you forced it, but because your spirit rose to the level of your purpose. You don't have to chase what's truly meant for you. When you're in alignment, it finds you. It meets you at the level of your energy and intention. But you won't feel that rhythm if your focus is divided. Your attention is sacred. Whatever you give it to, grow. If you fixate on the chaos, it expands. If you dwell on problems, they consume you. But if you lock into peace, peace begins to take root. If you pour into purpose, the path ahead becomes clearer. Focus reshapes everything around you. And yes, people may say you've changed. They might call you distant. They may even label you cold. And maybe they're right. Maybe you have changed. Because when you finally realize what's on the line, you stop playing small. You stop showing up in spaces that deplete your soul. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand in the first place. Focus shapes you. It sharpens your ability to distinguish between what's merely urgent and what's truly important. You begin to realize that not every message deserves a reply. Not every conflict needs your voice. Not every open door is meant for you to walk through. You shift from reacting impulsively to responding deliberately, from being stretched thin in every direction to being anchored in the right one, from constant motion to purposeful movement. That's when alignment begins to feel like home, when your inner calm matches your outward choices, when your everyday actions mirror your deepest values, when your routines contribute to your healing, when your ambitions reflect your evolution, when your prayers and your path begin to match. You sense it in your body, you see it in your peace. Life no longer feels forced, it begins to flow, because you've stopped performing, you've stopped scattering yourself, you've found your focus. And that focus creates momentum. That alignment invites ease. That steady commitment begins attracting the right people, the right timing, the right doors. All because you stopped searching outward and started listening inward. When you're truly focused, the need for validation fades. You stop looking for applause because you trust that what's done in the dark will shine in the light when the time is right. Focus builds patience. It teaches trust. It reminds you that just because it hasn't arrived yet doesn't mean it isn't on its way. Just because they can't see the vision doesn't mean it's not alive. So you keep building, you keep trusting, you keep showing up even without the spotlight. Because alignment is not about being seen, it's about staying faithful to your purpose. Let others chase trends, you stay anchored in truth. Let them move for approval, you move for meaning. Let others scroll, scramble, react. You stay centered, aware, and deliberate. That's what sets apart the distracted from the disciplined, the loud from the aligned, the lost from the called. Focus is how you defend your peace. It's how you stop pouring time and energy into things that don't carry you forward. Because not everything is worth your reaction. Not every moment needs your presence. And once you truly understand that, once you live by it, you become unshakable. You gain clarity. You gain power. The more focused you are, the quicker you sense what doesn't fit. You notice misalignment faster. That conversation doesn't feel right. That office sounds off. That space leaves you drained. And you trust that inner nudge. You don't dismiss the voice that says this isn't for you. You respect it, you guard it. That is the strength of focus. It reconnects you to your inner compass. It stops you from outsourcing your direction to others and brings you back to your own wisdom, your own discernment, your own divine rhythm. So don't fear the quiet. Don't avoid the depth. Don't run from choosing purpose over popularity. Because that one choice, that focus, is what brings you back home to yourself. Because the moment you truly begin to focus, things begin to align. Not because the world has shifted, but because you have. Your mind clears, your heart steadies, your movements become intentional. And alignment flows naturally from the inside out. Focus becomes your silent companion, unseen but ever present, leading you toward everything you've been praying for. Words are easy, but action is everything. You can say all the right things, post the quotes, make the promises, give the talks, but if your life doesn't mirror your words, none of it holds weight. People may forget what you said, but they'll always remember how you moved. Your character isn't shaped by occasional declarations, it's built by what you do consistently. The real ones, they don't announce their presence. They don't repeat their intentions endlessly. They simply show up again and again letting their discipline say more than words ever could. If you want to be respected, stop persuading, stop producing. Let your actions be the evidence. Let your consistency reveal your focus. Let your changed habits show your growth. Let your calm spirit testify to your healing. When your lifestyle reflects your truth, you no longer crave validation. People feel the difference. They sense the shift. Your presence begins to speak, not with noise, but with quiet authenticity. In a world overwhelmed by distractions, quiet action is powerful. Everyone's talking, posting, debating, performing in places where nothing actually evolves. But very few are truly moving. Few are actually building. Few are sacrificing for the life they say they want. If you're truly serious about becoming who you're called to be, you'll have to move differently. Stop debating your value. Deliver results. Stop pleading for support. Become undeniable. Stop explaining your path. Walk it boldly. Those who talk the most often offer the least. But the ones who work in silence, who stay focused, those are the ones transforming everything. Your actions are a mirror of your mindset. If your steps are scattered, so is your focus. If your choices lack consistency, so does your direction. But when you're truly aligned, when what you do matches what you claim to believe, people feel that alignment. You can enter a room and say nothing, yet your presence will still speak volumes. It will say, I'm disciplined. It will say, I've been refined by pain. It will say, I'm not here for attention, I'm here for purpose. And there's a quiet power in that, a power that doesn't fade. Eventually you stop explaining and start becoming. You stop talking about the process and start embodying it. Your life becomes the evidence. You don't have to convince anyone. Your healing, your growth, your evolution, they'll echo louder than anything you could ever voice. Let them speculate, let them talk. While they're busy watching, you're focused. While they waste time gossiping, you're building. While they linger, you're moving. And one day, they'll look up and see you built something undeniable. But by then, you'll be too focused to care. Because real success doesn't make noise. Real healing isn't for display. Real purpose doesn't announce itself. It moves. It creates. It becomes. And when your actions start speaking, people listen in a different way. They don't just hear your words. They feel your presence. They sense what you've endured. They recognize the fire you've walked through and how you emerged stronger. They understand you've stayed up late, risen early, persisted through silence, and never stopped showing up. That kind of consistency speaks louder than anything else. You won't need to chase validation. You won't need to force doors to open. Opportunities will find you. Not because of what you claimed, but because of what you demonstrated. That's the reward of true alignment, a life that tells its own story. But let's be honest, action demands discipline, and discipline is rare. Anyone can create a plan. Anyone can say they're ready for change, but only the committed follow through. Only the focused keep going when the motivation fades. Only the determined continue forward when the crowd disappears. Because this isn't about performance. It's about becoming who you were designed to be, even when no one's watching. That's where integrity is formed. That's where unshakable strength is built. And eventually everything you cultivated in silence begins to bloom in public view. But it always begins behind the scenes. Every time you show up when you'd rather quit, you're sending a message. Every time you say no to distraction, you're affirming your direction. Every time you stand by your principles, you're leading without speaking. That is influence. That is leadership. Not the kind that begs for applause, but the kind that earns genuine respect. And that's what separates the talkers from the doers. Because anyone can say it, but few can become it. Yet if you're one of the few who do, your life will echo beyond your words. It becomes your legacy. So stop trying to persuade people. Stop over-explaining your journey. Stop waiting for them to catch up. Just keep moving forward. Keep showing up. Keep building the life that reflects your purpose. Let your actions speak your growth. Let your silence hold the weight of your strength. Let your presence carry the depth of your transformation. Because when you stop talking and truly start living, the world will feel the difference. And the people meant to walk with you, they'll see it. Not because you told them, but because your life made the truth impossible to ignore. You've spent so much of your life running after love, chasing approval, pursuing success, holding on to people who were never meant to stay. You burned yourself out believing the more you hustled, the more you gave, the more you sacrificed, the closer you'd get to fulfillment. But what you may not realize is that the very act of chasing means it's still out of reach. Peace doesn't exist in the chase. It exists in your presence. Growth doesn't come from desperation. It comes from alignment. And when you stop looking out there and start turning inward, everything begins to shift. You don't have to chase what's already meant for you. You just have to grow into the version of you who's ready to hold it. We've been taught to believe that struggle is proof of worth, that unless we're constantly earning our place, we'll be overlooked. So we drain our spirits trying to feel temporarily seen. But here's the truth. The moment you stop chasing validation, you unlock your truest self. When you stop pursuing connection out of desperation, you begin to attract what's aligned with your spirit. Because when you're whole on the inside, the right things naturally begin to find their way to you. You won't need to force anything. You won't need to plead or prove. It flows because it resonates with who you've become. You were never designed to spend your life trying to persuade others to love you, to see you, or to believe in your worth. That's not your assignment. Your purpose is to become someone so deeply anchored in truth, in growth, in faith, that everything meant for you arrives effortlessly without tension. Because chasing is born from emptiness. It sends a signal that says, I don't believe I'm enough unless something outside of me completes me. But when you stop striving and start evolving, you step into real power. You move into overflow. You become a magnet for the very things that have been waiting on you to align. Think back on all the moments you tried to force things, how they never truly worked. The people you begged to stay were often the ones who left you most wounded. That's because chasing creates pressure. And pressure without peace eventually breaks you. But the moment you let go of control, the second you surrender your grip on outcomes, you make room for what's real. That relationship, that opportunity, that open door. It won't come because you chased it. It will come because you became someone prepared to hold it well. The goal isn't just to achieve success. The goal is to become the kind of person who can carry it with strength and grace. Real growth lives in the becoming. It lives in the quiet disciplines. The mornings you showed up when your heart was heavy. The nights you chose healing over escape. The days you picked peace when conflict was easier. That's where strength is forged. Each small choice, each silent victory builds a life not desperate for blessings, but ready to sustain them. Because a restored soul doesn't run after what's already destined. A steady mind doesn't drown in distraction. A whole heart doesn't plead, it draws what fits. It creates what endures. Becoming isn't performance. It's not about proving a point. It's about preparing yourself for what's ahead. You don't need to advertise your evolution. Your energy will tell the story. You don't need to convince anyone of your growth. Your life will reveal it. When you stop waiting to be chosen and begin choosing yourself, everything changes. Your boundaries grow firmer. Your time becomes sacred. Your focus sharpens. The distractions lose their grip. And in that quiet space, clarity begins to rise. Suddenly, what once felt unreachable begins to move closer. And though the world may try to pressure you, try to convince you you're behind or not enough, until you hit a milestone or gain recognition, don't let it steal your pace. Don't fall into the trap of chasing things that don't nourish your soul. You're not behind, you're unfolding. You're not lost, you're being refined. And when you choose the road of transformation over performance, the timing of your life begins to make sense. Delays stop feeling like setbacks and begin to reveal themselves as divine preparation. You'll begin to realize that what is truly meant for you cannot miss you. You don't have to run after people. You don't have to chase opportunities. When you're walking in alignment with your purpose, what's meant for you finds its way. Without force, without fear, your purpose will position you exactly where you're meant to be. So take your eyes off the race and turn your attention inward. Invest in becoming. Become steady. Become disciplined. Become whole. Become faithful to the process. And watch how life begins to respond to the version of you that shows up with clarity and intention. People will sense the difference. Doors will begin to open. And most importantly, you will feel it deep in your spirit. You'll carry a quiet confidence, not because others validated your worth, but because you finally stopped waiting for permission to believe in yourself. There's a powerful freedom that rises when you stop chasing. When you understand that your only job is to rise, to heal, to root yourself in truth. Everything else, love, peace, purpose, it will meet you on the path. Not when you chase it, not when you force it, but when you become the version of you that's prepared to receive it. And readiness doesn't come from urgency. It comes from steady work, from consistency, from showing up when no one is watching, from doing the internal work without needing an audience, from becoming the kind of person whose worth doesn't waver, even in the silence. That's the shift from chasing to being, from scarcity to security, from seeking to knowing. So stop running, stop proving, stop pleading, start becoming. Start walking like you already carry the crown. Show up as though the door has already opened. And even if it hasn't, be the kind of person who would walk through it with grace, humility, and unwavering resolve. Because the moment you stop striving and start embodying, everything begins to align. Not because you forced it, but because you finally made room to welcome it. And now, here you are, on the other side of the silence, beyond the breaking after the rebuilding. What you've lived through wasn't a checklist or a formula. It was a transformation, a return to your essence, a quiet personal revolution. This was never about performing for the world. It's about protecting your inner peace It's about returning to who you were before the noise, before the expectations, before the chase. It's about remembering that stillness carries strength, that solitude brings clarity, and that